College Park. We'd like to welcome you tonight. Thank you for joining us. I am Cameron Preston Smith, and I am your moderator this evening. I am the Director of Communications and Public Information for the City of College Park. And we are thrilled to have you guys here tonight at the Public Safety Complex for this special town hall meeting hosted by your mayor, Bianca Motley Broom. A couple things, housekeeping to go over before we begin. Facilities, the emergency exits. I want to remind everyone you can go straight out in that hall for the restroom. They're located right behind the door. And in case of emergency, there are several police officers in here. But in case of emergency, there are exits. That's the way out, and follow them. The way they're going, that's the way you go too. There is a QR code for questions. Most of you saw it on the way in. And there is one on every seat. So if you do have questions, you can scan the QR code and ask your question that way. We want to make sure that your questions are heard. So scan that code. And you are also welcome to ask your question live once we get to that portion of the evening. I will be introducing the mayor. Following the mayor, I'm not sure if the city manager will not be attending today. But we do still have a chance for you to ask questions and have an open dialogue with the mayor. When we do begin the Q&A, I want to remind everyone of a few important rules. Remain respectful and considerate of others while asking your questions. One question per person to ensure everyone has a chance to participate. We know you all have a lot of questions. Avoid interrupting people while others are speaking. And we all look forward to a productive and engaging evening. I'm thanking you in advance for your cooperation tonight. And before we begin, before I introduce the mayor, I want to bring up a couple of members from the College Park Police Department. They have a special announcement for you in light of their efforts to help after Hurricane Helene.
Hello to everyone. Glad to see you all out tonight. Listen, with the tragedies and the damages that have been called from the storms down south, especially in the Augusta area, Valdosta area, Chief Connie Rogers and the Community Policing Department at the City of College Park have gotten together, and now we're actually collecting items to send that way. I'm going to call on Officer Gibbons now to explain further.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, to the mayor, citizens of College Park. Like Major Denard just said, that we deemed it necessary to do our part because it could have been us here in Atlanta that's going through this tragic situation. So Chief and myself and the majors, we've gotten together and we're going to start taking collection items to transport to Louisville, Georgia. If you guys don't know where Louisville, Georgia is, it's a small town. It's a rural area east of Augusta. It's about 45 miles east of Augusta. They're still going through a hardship, no power, no running water, no hot meals. So I've spoken with some city officials on this weekend and on today, and we're going to start collecting items here at the police department from today up until Friday. We're going to coordinate a box truck to transport those items on Saturday morning. I'm going to be responsible for that, and we're going to take those items to Louisville, Georgia, which is about 160 miles from Atlanta. It's going to take about 2 hours or whatever. So we're going to do that because we only feel like it's necessary. We're going to do our part as a city and as a police department to do all we can to help those guys out. So if you guys would, you can donate bottled water, cleaning supplies, toiletries, diapers, wipes, gloves, working gloves, trash bags, those type of things. Anything that you consider that you can donate, we will be grateful for it, and you can bring it here to the police department again between today and today and Friday at 5 p.m. And we're going to get all those items and put them on a truck and take them down there to those guys. Again, I say thank you from the police department, and this is real dear to me because my family is in Louisville, Georgia. So I've made several trips down there to take all that I could, and talked to Chief and the majors, and they said that it would only be befitting that we do it as a police department and a city. So hopefully you guys pull your resources together and help us out a little bit and make this a wonderful collaborative effort for the city. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Just one thing additionally, this is the first trip this week. I know that we have community groups and churches that meet on Sundays, so a lot of the pastors and things of that nature want to get it out to the congregation. We'll make another trip as well if all the churches in the area and the community groups want to get together. Again, we say thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, College Park, for the way we know that you will step up to help. Now, this evening, our mayor will provide key updates. She'll share her insights on important community matters and welcome some special guests. So without further ado, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome our mayor, Bianca Motley Broom.
I'm just going to take that out there. Thank you so much, Cameron. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I am so happy to see a great crowd tonight. Thank you so much for coming. We have a lot of special guests this evening, and I want to thank not only our police department, but our fire department, our power department, all of our first responders, our 911 operators, everyone who has pitched in regard to Hurricane Helene. We were blessed that we did not end up in the path, but our team stood ready. And I want to take the time to thank each and every one of them because they went above, they went beyond. We did have some trees down. We did have some folks that did have power outages, but we were largely spared. But our team was ready. We have an outstanding staff, and I just want to thank them for what they do each and every single day, even if it's not an emergency, to keep College Park safe. So if you would join me in giving them some thanks. And so we are here tonight. This is typically a time when we have a council meeting, but we do not have a quorum of the council that is available to meet this evening. This is a fairly unusual thing to have happen, and I know that former Councilmember Clay is here, and he's got a mailer that he sends out, well, an email that he sends out, and he talked about the infrequency with which this happened during his 16 years on council. It has happened a number of times this year, and it's not great, because I think that it's disruptive not only to residents, because you count on us to be there on the first and third Mondays of most months. We take the first week of July and the last week of December. I'm sorry, the first Monday of July and the third Monday of December off. But generally speaking, that first and third Monday is what you count on, it's what we count on. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to still have the conversations that you want to have, because this is the time that is devoted to you as a community where we are supposed to do your business. So we are scheduled to meet this Thursday for the regular council meeting, the workshop, and the regular session. Councilmember Arnold will not be able to be there in person. She is traveling for work. And for those of you who had the opportunity to see the special called meeting a couple of weeks ago where Dr. Adediran was voted as city manager, I voiced my concerns about that, because I think it's important, no matter what ward you live in, to have the representation of your elected official at our meetings, if that is possible. And I know for that particular meeting, the meeting coming up on Thursday, not everyone's calendars were actually consulted. I think we can do better. I think we should stick to our schedule, because that's what you count on. Heck, that's what I count on. As some of you know, I've got a day job, and so a year out, I'm blocking my calendar because these are the times that I'm committing to you, because that's what we said we're going to do. So I think that we should be sticking to that a little bit better than we have been. But we are going to use this time well tonight to talk about the questions that you have, to give you more information, because we've got some experts in the room who have lots of wonderful things to tell us all about. Since we last met, we were here in July talking and answering questions. I've had the opportunity to engage in a number of ways, and I want to let you know what I've been doing on the city's behalf. I am right now participating in the National League of Cities Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity Boot Camp. That's a big old mouthful. But basically, it's giving us the opportunity to learn how to get ready for federal grants, because there's a lot of federal money coming down in the next several years. And we've got a lot of infrastructure projects that we know could use that money. And if somebody's going to get it, why not us? But preparing for federal grants takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of effort. So this boot camp that I'm participating in is giving us the tools. We had our former director of airport affairs participate in the boot camp as well, to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to provide the services and the resources to you as a community. I've also been very busy with the Georgia Municipal Association. And the two gentlemen over there who are going to talk for the next, 15 or 20 minutes, we have been doing some road shows together. Noah Rainance and DJ Waller are here from the governmental relations team of the Georgia Municipal Association. I serve as the first vice president of the Georgia Municipal Association, and in that capacity, I'm the chair of the Legislative Policy Council. And so a lot of the things that we're talking about on the state level that impacts College Park are coming through the Georgia Municipal Association. They are things you need to know about, because they impact us on a daily basis. And Noah and DJ are going to give you an overview, A, of what GMA does, and B, of what's happened in the last legislative session and what we can look forward to in the upcoming legislative session. We've been, let's see, last week we were in Byron, is that right? We were in Madison, we were in Mount Vernon 2 weeks ago, because we've got district meetings. There's 12 districts across the state. And so I think I've committed to making 6 of those meetings out of the 12 to connect with elected officials across the state to understand a little bit better what's going on in each individual community. We have 536 cities in the state of Georgia, soon to be 537 if the city of Mulberry is Mulberry in Gwinnett County, yep. So not quite Mayberry, but Mulberry. So we've got 536 cities with lots and lots of different needs, and you're going to hear Noah and DJ talk about those in a moment. But we are always stronger together. If we can speak as one voice as Georgia's cities, then we get a lot of things done, and they're going to tell you some of the great work that they've been doing under the Gold Dome. And so without further ado, let me introduce to you 2 of the sharpest minds in the entire Georgia Municipal Association, Noah Rainance and DJ Waller. And by the way, when they are finished, please feel free to ask them questions, because we've got a microphone for them.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. My name is Noah Rainance, and I'm joined today by my colleague, DJ Waller. We both work on the governmental relations team for the Georgia Municipal Association. So just in layman's terms, I'm a lobbyist, as is DJ, and we work on a team of 6 full-time professional lobbyists that represent the interests of municipalities at the Georgia State Capitol each and every day and every night of the 40-day legislative session. So for those of you that do not know, Georgia's legislative session operates every year, and they start on the 2nd Thursday in January, and they operate for 40 days. So that means we're 95 days away from the 158th biennial session of the Georgia General Assembly. The election day is 29 days away, where you're going to go and elect your state representatives and state senators that serve in that assembly. And my wife's birthday is 19 days away. So I need to keep that in my mind as well, on top of work. So there's a lot that's going on at the Capitol, and that's kind of where me and DJ and our team comes in, is we work to represent municipal interests, to make sure that any law the state passes is considerate of municipal needs and municipal interests. So I cover community development policy as well as transportation policy, and DJ covers public safety policy as well as municipal government policies. Now, within each of these areas, we kind of have specialties, but we look at all these bills when they come out. Now, I think the mayor did a fantastic job of giving you insight into what GMA is, but I'll just kind of go a little bit deeper. We represent all 536 cities in the state of Georgia. They don't have to be members of us. They have chosen to be members of us. And we're really, really proud of that fact. Because when we can speak as one voice and as one whole body, and I can go and testify on a bill and say, hey, we support this or we're against this, that means a lot. Because it means I got every single city all across the state of Georgia to agree behind a legislative position. Now, every single city in the state of Georgia is not the same when you think of the politics and the people that live in those communities and represents them. So coming to that position, it means a lot, and it's very powerful. So as we look forward to what's going to be happening in the next session in 2025, I want to first start by giving you a background on what happened in 2024 and kind of what has bubbled up in the off season. And I'd like to start by kind of giving the mic over to my colleague DJ to talk about some public safety issues that we've been tracking and we saw in 2024 and we're expecting to go into 2025. So with that, DJ?
Thank you, Noah. Thank you all for having us tonight. It's great to be here in College Park. As Noah mentioned, I'm DJ Waller, and I handle public safety and municipal government. Specific bills dealing with public safety, House Bill 451 was a pivotal piece of legislation aimed at enhancing support for first responders in our state. We recognize the unique challenges faced by first responders who often encounter traumatic situations in the line of duty. So this bill seeks to provide critical resources and protections for their mental health and well-being. So the PTSD diagnosis must be a result of a traumatic event while working for the public entity and would be for the events that take place after July 1st, 2023. So if a first responder is diagnosed with PTSD, they can receive a single $3,000 lump sum payment and treatment and up to 36 months of disability income replacement benefits over the course of their lifetime if they're unable to return to work. So this was, we fought hard to get this bill passed, GMA, because we recognize that mental health is real, and first responders deal with that every single day. So we're happy that this passed. So not only do we try to push bills, we also try to stop bad bills. And so another bill that I think was day 39 or day 40, they tried to introduce a bill to stop local police officers and sheriffs running radar on interstate. So there was substitute language added to a proposed bill that seeks to limit the ability of local governments to operate radar enforcement on the interstate. So our concern was local governments should retain the authority to manage traffic and safety within their jurisdiction. You're the one who lived there. You know what your community is like. So we fought to get that language taken out. We called on all of our mayors, council members that we had. We were literally standing in the Capitol that night. I think it was like 10 o'clock at night. Standing in the Capitol, texting mayors and like, hey, sorry, text you so late, but we need your help. And so they started contacting their legislators from their delegation, and the bill did not pass. So that's one of the things that we worked on. Another bill, House Bill 1105, this was an immigration bill. So after the tragic death of a young college student on UGA campus by undocumented immigrant, there was a host of different bills introduced to tackle immigration. One bill that we didn't like tried to take away all the city's sovereign immunity. But that bill didn't pass after we did the same thing and reaching out to our delegation, say, hey, this cannot pass because this is really bad. But this new bill introduced new immigration requirements for municipalities, mandating stricter reporting protocols for municipal employees, especially in law enforcement. So those are some of the public safety bills that we dealt with, and I'll wait to get into the study committees.
So thank you, DJ, for that. I'm going to take a minute to talk about some housing policy, because that's what I've been covering for 3 years since I've been with the association. Our state has been able to experience a continued economic success and economic prosperity long through the past decade. And that means that people want to move to Georgia. They want to live in our communities. They want to go to our schools. They want to be here. But that also means that we now have pressures on the housing scale in every community. We need to look at solutions for workforce housing, solutions for affordable housing, solutions for emergency housing for those that may be experiencing unshelteredness in their communities. So over the past 3 years, there has been a lot of attempts by the General Assembly to come up with a top-down approach. One of the core functions of local governments, whether it be a city or whether it be a county, is deriving land use protocol, planning protocol for housing, as well as the regulation of housing in communities all across the state of Georgia. Sometimes the state of Georgia as a whole, especially the legislature, sees some of the regulations and some of the trends in land use as problematic as it comes to creating new housing. Now, we have time and time again come to the table and said, hey, we need to be talking about infrastructure. If you're able to help us build out infrastructure, we can cater to more housing. Hey, we need to talk about technical assistance programs to help put the right planning staff in cities and at the regional level to help local decision makers have access to the best information available. Additionally, we need to be at the table when the state is making big economic outreach efforts to major corporations to move here. Because if a city is just going along and all of a sudden they find out that they're going to get a new manufacturing plant for 7,500 jobs, they have not been able to consider that in their long-range planning efforts as it relates to housing. They could have never done that because that company didn't exist, they didn't know about it. So I remember in 2022 was really my first year covering the issue, and the mayor came down and testified against a bill for build-to-rent housing. Now, build-to-rent is a subdivision-style development that looks just like any other subdivision-style development, but every single home in it is for rent. The bill was written so that a local government could not stop you from building those anywhere in your community, all across the state of Georgia. They basically said it's going to be carte blanche access to these private developers to come in and put these homes wherever they want. Now, that is completely a derogative of the local planning process. And we were able to have Mayor Bianca Motley Broom come down and testify, and you'll never guess who she was sitting alongside. It was the mayor of Sandy Springs, Rusty Paul. So that again harkens back to the message I communicated earlier about when you can get everyone at the table saying the same message, it carries a lot of weight. When you can have Sandy Springs sitting next to College Park, two communities that are only 20 miles away from each other, but have some differences, and you can have the leaders of both of those communities communicating the same message down to the dotted I and the crossed T, that means a lot. So we wanted to thank you again for that. I know it was some years ago now. This past session, we were able to advance a key bill out of committee called the Choice Act. It was House Bill 1266. And it would have rewarded local governments who were making changes to their local land use or zoning codes to be more to accommodate more density as long as the local community would allow it, and it would allow them to tie into key infrastructure dollars provided for at the state level. That's kind of recognition of the issue we've been communicating for years now, is that if you want more housing, you need to help us provide more infrastructure dollars. Because we have a set tax base at the municipal level that's based upon property taxes and sales taxes. And if you want to raise more money, that means raising the property taxes of those that live in the community. And it's an opinion that I don't necessarily agree with, but I don't think that legacy residents of communities should have to pay the way for new people to move in. There's going to be a mix and there's going to be a balance when you talk about digests and interests, but we need to be creative in the ways in which we allow municipalities and county governments to derive revenues outside of just touching that millage up and down every single year and looking at the appraised valuation every single year. We need to be more creative. So again, as we move forward, there's been a lot in the housing space. One that I know the mayor wanted me to touch on was about short-term rental. And again, this is about the state seeing an issue and wanting to provide a top-down solution. Short-term rentals, Airbnb, VRBO type properties, they're prevalent all throughout the state now. They started out as vacation rentals along the coast. Maybe you want to go to Tybee Island for the weekend and get a nice little beach house. But now, especially given the travel and all the convention, people really want Airbnbs in every single community because it's a nice amenity to have, especially as a property owner. But Airbnbs and short-term rental type properties can drastically change the characteristic of community and the services that need to be provided in those communities as well. A short-term rental property that's operating, with no vacancy is operating more like a hotel than a residential property. But oftentimes that short-term rental is in the middle of a residential property. So you need to be conscious of the service delivery applications. So again, the state of Georgia came in and the legislator said, you know what? We're going to create a grandfather clause. If short-term rental had not been regulated ever before in its life, then the local government never gets to regulate it for the rest of its life. And if the local government ever messes up and misapplies a regulation, then everybody in the status gets to reset their grandfather clause and the local government doesn't get to regulate any of them. So basically the local government had a one-strike policy. It said if you misenforce your ordinance one time, you don't get to regulate any short-term rentals. So again, that's another instance of the state kind of looking at an issue and saying, we have a solution, where then, me at the Municipal Association, some of my colleagues from the County Association come up and say, hey, this is not going to work. This is going to do more harm than good. And again, we had, the mayor of Monroe come out and testify with us at that. And Monroe is just a small little historic community, about an hour and 15 minutes east of Atlanta. So the final thing I'd like to talk about is transportation. That's my other policy area. And transportation is something that's really crucial, not just historically to the state of Georgia as a terminus of rail here in Atlanta, but we are now a logistics corridor. We have the world's busiest airport that is right here in your city. We have the busiest port on the eastern seaboard in Savannah and Brunswick. We are moving a lot of freight through the state of Georgia. There was an attempt this year to raise the truck weight limit from 84,000 pounds to 88,000 pounds to say we need to move more weight over the road through communities. Now, we had two issues with this. First of all, heavier trucks means the roads are going to deteriorate at a much faster rate, and the worst thing anyone wants to deal with is potholes when they're driving around. And the second thing is it's a major public safety concern. If you're increasing the weight of a truck by 6%, but not having any care about how that truck has been maintained, how can you ensure that that truck can stop and it's not going to kill somebody if there's a crash on the interstate? Especially thinking about College Park, when you start to think about heavier trucks on the interstate and local governments can't run radar on the interstate, at this point, I'm like, let's just not drive on the interstate. This is getting a little crazy. So these are the types of things we look at each and every day when we're at the Capitol and the types of challenges we're faced with. Ultimately, they were able to get that increase to 88,000 pounds with a number of carve-outs, It's only for certain agricultural products. They can only drive a certain radius from the point of origin of the product, and local law enforcement has some enforcement abilities on those weights as well to ensure that they are keeping at that standard. But there's always give and take with bills. The give on that was local roads were funded through a Georgia Department of Transportation program for the first time in state history at double the rate. So every single city in Georgia had an effective doubling of what's called their LMIG allocation, which is local maintenance and improvement grants for roads. Mayor, do you know how much the LMIG is for the city of College Park off the top of your head? I hate to put that on you. Yeah. Well, I would assume, based upon my knowledge, it's probably an extra $300,000. Yeah. So that's kind of the give and take of it, is that sometimes, we're going to lose some battles, but it's understanding that we could make things whole in the end. So getting an extra $350,000 for the city of College Park to help maintain the roads and ensure good transitability in the city, those are key things. So that kind of concludes, looking at the back, or looking backwards. Looking forwards, we have a number of study committees over the next couple months that we're going to be entertaining.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Even if it's something we haven't talked about, if it's something from the state capitol, we probably know it. If I don't know it, else.
Didn't I tell you these guys are brilliant?
Okay. Hi, I'm Grace Lunsford, and I am a resident. Yeah. I helped with the Parklet, which is the little outdoor dining space that took over 7 parking spaces on our main street. So I got to be very friendly with Georgia Department of Transportation in order to ensure that, because that is US 29. There you go. So I love that this money is coming in, because frankly, our main street kind of does have a lot of problems. And I know in some other small areas, and I'm not entirely sure if it was happening in Georgia, I feel like it was a national conversation that I was reading about, was that municipalities were going to be taking over their main streets, even though they were DOT main streets, so they would have more liberal authority with them to do things like put in additional parklets, to put in a turning lane that makes sense, those kinds of things, bike lanes, without going through the laborious process. Is that happening here?
I'm going to give you the quick answer, and it's no.
No.
You alluded to a lot of real issues, and I think College Park, as a very, very historic city, sits at the forefront of that, because a number of the key corridors running through the city are state highways. And what municipalities and what municipal officials can do as it relates to touching state highway infrastructure is very limited. You have to go and make one hell of a case to the Department of Transportation about why you should have a protected crossing, why you should be able to do restriping efforts. Part of my job has been working to ameliorate some of that process, some common sense changes, the striping I just mentioned, but that's one of the things is, especially in rural Georgia, they don't have striping near a lot of their school zones, and it's one school in a county. So every kid in the county is getting bused there to go to school, and those that are walking to and from after for practices or any after school events, there's no protection on any of those state highways for walkability or pedestrian safety. So that's been a part of that messaging back to the department of, hey, we understand you own this infrastructure and you want autonomy here and you want to understand what changes, if any, the city is going to make. But there also has to, again, be give and take because we have a real pedestrian safety issue here, or, we want to be promoting, bicycle lanes or whatever it is that your community wants to look at. So, no, but we're working on it, absolutely.
Hi, thank you all for coming out. So my name is Mose, and you talked about land use and how that works into a master plan and how you're all able to support that for different counties. Right now in College Park, we're fighting a battery plant that's actually planned for the backyard of my parents' house. So earlier this week, or not this week, last week, we saw a massive bio lab fire that happened in Conyers. I woke up the next morning, stepped out on my back porch. I smelled it.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I ended up in Conyers last night with my son for a birthday party for a schoolmate. I had a headache from Conyers to 285. We rode down 20. It was heavy. You smelt it the whole way. I had a headache the entire way until I got to 285. It started to relieve itself. So this battery plant, while Conyers is 40 miles from us, this battery plant is 5 miles from us. And it presents the same type of potential danger, but 5 miles away from where we are right now. My question for you is, how do we engage Georgia municipalities, the program that you all are, how do we engage you all to help us fight things like that? Because, well, not even fight things, educate us about those kind of things, because right now the community is raising money. I'm not buying these things for my house so I can support those things to provide for a lawyer. So how do we get support from people higher up to help us understand these things a little bit better?
Well, thank you. And Mose, right?
Yes.
Mose, thank you for the question. So one thing I want to be, very clear on and hope that everyone in the room understands is that, I and the Municipal Association, we work to represent the city. So we work with the city officials. So I think as it relates to your problem, and I'm very familiar with the biolab fire in Conyers as well. We drove to Madison last week and we drove right past it on the interstate. And again, it stunk up my car as well. I completely understand the concern for having something similar to that in your community. The biggest thing is that I would say is we don't get involved in specific local issues, right? Like the development of whether it be a battery recycling plant or even where I'm from in Georgia, it was poultry processing facilities. Nobody wanted to have a poultry processing facility in our community, and yet we had a massive Tyson plant in the center of town who wanted to expand, right? But it's local politics. So while we cannot assist with that, there's nothing to be said about having conversations with local elected officials as well as those at the state level about, reaching out to your state representative and just saying, hey, we have some concerns about this, just echoing those concerns all the way up and down the chain of which you can vote, because they will be heard. I know tomorrow, for a fact, a number of state representatives from the Conyers area are having a public town hall at the state capitol to talk about their concerns with what happened to there and what they think some solutions are for that. Part of what we deal with is the state making way for certain types of industry that they want to cater to. A quick example of this that I could provide is Bitcoin mining. As silly as that may sound, there was a preemption last year that said that no local government could stop a Bitcoin mine from coming into their community. They wanted to favor a certain type of economic development. And again, we come back to that message of that's a local decision. The city council and the mayor should be able to have their input and say on whether or not this is right for the community. And I say the same would be extended to a battery plant or any type of chemical plant, any type of project coming to your community. The council should have a say, the mayor should have a say, and ultimately they're representing the public, who really has the biggest say in the matter for what they want to have in their community. So my message back to you would just be echo that message to local officials, not just at the city level, but also at the state level, and, make your concerns heard. Thank you, Moses. Sir, I can get you up here.
I can do it from here. Process by which cities are created has changed a great deal in the last 20 years since the city of Sandy Springs came into being, and there used to be a very structured process that you had to have a sign-off of at least a majority of a county's delegation to even move forward with a petition for a new city, which became a ballot referendum. So now we've had, in the last 5 or 6 legislative sessions, the attempt at the city of Eagles Landing cleaving out half of the tax base of the city of Stockbridge, the city of Buckhead City, which would have effectively crippled Atlanta public school system and cleaved about 25% of the tax base and the highest value tax property out of the city of Atlanta, Mulberry in Gwinnett County. Why hasn't the GMA been more vocal, if nothing else, in reminding the General Assembly, its leadership, and the governor's office of the process that's been in place and working pretty well for the better part of a century? Because each of those were completely different constructs, and specifically with Stockbridge, which was stopped in court, as well as by the voters, you would have had a city lose its state highway frontage, half of 138, 45% of its tax digest, to finance and create a new city. And the constitutional and charter problems, we've been all watching cities litigate counties forever, but that would have opened up a can of worms that I don't know when would be closed. Thank you for your guidance after.
No, and I think that's a fantastic question. Because we represent 536 cities, so how did we get all of them, right? They were all incorporated and a charter was issued one day. Up until 2018, with Eagles Landing and Stockbridge, we really didn't get involved in incorporation a lot. Kind of what we said then and what we still say now to this day is we care about the chickens, not the eggs, right? If you're working on a cityhood proposal at a local delegation level and you think, it should happen or it shouldn't happen, that's really not a GMA issue because it's not a city yet. Now, once a council is elected and a charter has been issued and they are online as a city, we come in and we provide education and training resources. If they want to be our member, that's also true. If they accept membership in GMA, we surround them with training resources and educational resources to help them get up and off the ground. But to that point, I want to make it very clear, and it actually became a large internal fight within GMA at the time within our policy council was, what was our position going to be on Eagles Landing, Stockbridge? Because what we then saw manifest years later with Buckhead City and Atlanta, it was really the same thing on a smaller scale. We created a formal policy that we oppose incorporation via de-annexation. So if you want to do that, the Georgia Municipal Association will oppose that. If you want to carve out a portion of a city, turn it into a new city, we oppose that. For all the reasons you mentioned, you are absolutely gutting a tax base. When you think about one of the largest ways in which a city can raise revenue, it's through bond debt, general obligation bond debt, and those bonds are underwritten upon the entirety of a tax base of a city. So when you then go after the fact and go, well, we're actually going to take this part of the city, which happens to be a nicer part, and remove them from the equation, that's, we akin it to there being a divorce, and the primary breadwinner gets to leave and saddle the other party with all the liabilities and debt, right? So we have opposed that. Some of the other cityhood measures, Mulberry in Gwinnett County, we did not get involved. All the ones in Cobb County, we did not get involved, even though there was only one successful one in the city of Mableton. But we really, yeah. 536. So thank you for the question. Any other questions? If not, thank you all for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen. They are such amazing resources for us as elected officials as we attempt to advocate on behalf of all of our cities. I think you can see why they are. Oh, actually, Noah, can I get you before you leave to talk about 581? Because that is the upcoming And that was a question that was asked. So I want to make sure that everyone understands what's coming up in November and what you will have as a potential constitutional amendment that will absolutely, positively change things.
Fantastic point. So, House Bill 581 was passed and signed into law this year by the governor. When we came into session last year, or this year in January, there was one thing on the minds of most of the General Assembly, and it was we need to get property taxes under control. And that really then became focused on the appraised valuations of properties. There were very limited, and I would describe it as a lot of gray area for the manner by which property is appraised in the state of Georgia, specifically speaking to the schedule of how often properties are reappraised. A problem that the General Assembly wanted to correct was a number of properties had not had a proper appraisal for a number of years, and then when COVID hit and the housing market really kind of exploded and got red hot, properties were selling at fair cash market price to willing buyers at rates that a lot of people thought were crazy. Wow, there's no way that home's worth $500,000, or no way that one's worth $700,000, but people were paying that and buying the houses. Now, the problem for the appraiser is they go, all right, well, this home right next door to you just sold for $650,000. We're going to look at your home, and I know we said it was only worth $350,000 when we last did it 4 years ago, but we're going to have to up the price because the comp model that we have to look at says your house fair market is going to be worth this. So that's a problem, because when you are continually raising the appraised valuation of homes 10, 15, 20% year over year, you are really pricing individuals out of your community that are on fixed incomes. It's a massive issue. And it's a part of the housing issue that we look at as the state of Georgia as a whole. So down to brass tacks. On November 5th, there will be a constitutional ballot question that each of you will have when you go vote. And it's going to ask you if you want to authorize a statewide floating homestead exemption for your locality. Floating homestead exemptions are not new. Other communities in the state of Georgia have them, either at the city level or the county level. What they work to do is put a soft cap on the appraised valuation of your property, usually a residential homesteaded property, and have that tied to either an inflationary figure or just a hard number, say 3, 4, 5%. To say if you have a home that's valued at $100,000 appraised valuation, the rate of inflation that year is 2.5%, the value of your home at most that the city, county, or school board could say it's worth would then be $102,500. That's what it would be. So you will have that ballot question. If you don't mind, I'd just like to jump ahead because it's going to get approved. It's going to get approved statewide. We don't need to worry about whether or not that's going to pass. The real next kicker becomes it coming into effect at the local level. So what we codified into law when that bill passed was a 3% cap tied to the rate of inflation on the appraised value of a home. There are two factors that can work to reset the value. First is the sale of the property. If you are under a floating cap and you go sell that property to somebody and they pay fair cash market price for that, that immediately resets the valuation. Whatever you paid is the new appraised valuation. The second is going to be if you do substantial renovation to the property worth more than $75,000. That again resets your appraised valuation. Now, 581 only applies to residential homesteaded property. This does not apply to commercial, industrial, multifamily, single-family rented. This cap, this floating cap, only applies to residential homesteaded properties. So going forward, if your local government keeps the float online, the most your residential homesteaded property could appreciate by year over year is the rate of inflation to a maximum of 3%. That's what it is. The intent of the General Assembly in doing this does two things. It's first, it makes that appraisal valuation a little bit more comfortable to know that you could plan year after year to know this is the maximum it could appraise at. But it also provides a little bit of a spotlight on the local government, because if they want to, in fact, raise the millage rates and collect more in taxes, they then have to make that vote public. They have to raise the millage rate. They cannot just rely on the appreciation of the digest and keeping the millage the same. They wanted to shine light on that. Now, the third step of this is local governments can opt out of this up until March 1st. A local government can choose not to put this on the books up until March 1st of next year. Now, there are a number of reasons for why a local government may not want to do this. If you are, say, a bedroom community and the majority of the property in your city or county is residential homesteaded, placing an artificial cap on top of the valuation of your digest could severely harm some of your long-term capital projects in your city, your ability to raise revenues in the long term. But that's a local decision you're going to have to make. Every single city in the state of Georgia, every single county, every single school board is going to have the option to opt out of this. There's no opting in. You're only, if you're sitting there, you're playing poker, you have one move. If you're a city, county, or school board, your only move is to fold and say, we're out. You're not going to opt in. It's de facto, you're opted in. Now, final note on this is, if your county and every single city within your jurisdiction agrees to keep the floating homestead, after that March 1st deadline has passed, the city and the counties can bring to a local ballot measure at the county level an additional 1 penny sales tax. It's called a flost. And we think of it as a blow-off valve, like a pressure blow-off valve in a pressure cooker, to basically just say, you are placing an artificial cap on the digest, but because you did that, there's going to be give and take. We're going to take your ability to do that away, but we're going to give you the ability to potentially have another penny sales tax that you could use for property tax rollback. The city of College Park specifically cannot do that. As I just reminded myself, because you all have a municipal option sales tax already. One of the 4 jurisdictions in the state of Georgia that do. How did I not put that together? So that's a very key point. But you could still opt in. You could still opt out of the program. You could. So that's a bargaining chip the city has. So I hope that's probably about as clear as mud. Yes, sir.
Thank you. This actually brought up a really good question that I've been thinking about. Is recently the council passed a homestead exemption for people above a certain age for $75,000 income or whatever it was. Really wild because they didn't do any inflation indexing, anything. Would a program like this override that if they opted in, or would we just be stuck holding the bags because they didn't pay attention to anything?
No. So the way it works is that each individual property, assume we live in an environment where the local government has kept the float, right? Each individual homeowner gets to choose what is most advantageous to them. So if that is a person over the age of 70 years old, under a certain income threshold, exercising the senior homestead exemption, if that's more advantageous to them, then they can do that. If the float is more advantageous to them, they can do that. It's all about what is better for the individual. So you could have 10 houses on a street, 5 of them are residential homesteaded, 3 of them have it in effect, 2 don't. So.
No, great, thank you. I think the main thing I was thinking is, as a non-senior homestead exemptor, I pay market rate, locking in, whatever. But we just cut our tax base, like we significantly did. We went from $45,000 to $70,000. That's a big jump in income. And to me, it was concerning because I lost my thought. It was concerning because we didn't index inflation it. We didn't do a lot of things that probably should have been looked at. And we have cut our tax base, but it's being touted as a tax cut for everybody. Yet you're locked in at today's rates. You didn't get locked in at 2020's rates, 2019's rates. So I think I'd be cautious how we listen to these things and they're worded, and make sure that we're paying attention to opportunities like that out there that might protect us from property taxes. I didn't grow up in Georgia. I didn't grow up here, but my house is the same value I paid in Utah 3 years ago I pay 10 times the property taxes to live here for the same tax base.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all.
There are so many really meaty policy issues that are happening on the state level that impact us as a community. And I want to thank Noah and DJ again for coming out tonight, explaining some of those things. As far as I'm aware, we have no plans to opt out of if the constitutional amendment is passed, or when the constitutional amendment is passed, because I can't really imagine that the entirety of the state of Georgia is going to pass up a homestead exemption. But that we do have until March 1st. It is a decision that, as Noah said, every local government has the opportunity to make. So that means the school board is going to make that decision. The county is going to make that decision. We're going to make that decision on the local level as well. But thus far, there have been no conversations to opt out. But again, thank you so much. Great information. Want to move on. And Cameron, would you like to introduce our next guest? This feels like a game show.
I will. Thank you very much. We have a visitor here from Trees Atlanta. Mike, this is Mike Vinciquera, and he's from Trees Atlanta. And he's going to talk to you a bit about what his purpose is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I am Mike Vinciquera. I'm the Business Development Director for Trees Atlanta, which basically means I have two purposes with the organization. One is to work with corporate donors and corporate groups who want to come out and volunteer with us to plant trees throughout Metro Atlanta. And secondarily is to work with our municipal partners throughout Metro Atlanta. So last year we planted trees in 12 different municipalities, including, of course, the city of Atlanta. That's where we started, but we have definitely branched out. And so the mayor asked me, I think, to come here tonight just to talk to you for a couple minutes about potential tree planting and different things that we could do in the city of College Park. So those of you who are not familiar with Trees Atlanta, we've been around since 1985. We do a large number of different things now, but the main things we do are tree planting and tree care throughout the cities, trying to reforest a lot of the trees that we're losing to development and other reasons. We go around and reforest places that have invasive plants like kudzu, English ivy, wisteria, and so we're restoring those places and bringing native plants back so that you have access to your green spaces throughout the community and also in your backyard perhaps. And then we also have a broad education effort trying to help people understand why trees are important, why you want them in your community, and how you can actually take care of them yourself with your own skills. But what I wanted to talk about tonight very briefly is just to say we have planted trees here with volunteers in College Park in recent years, but we would love to plant more trees. Just like many of the communities around Metro Atlanta, development is happening, trees are coming out, we have storms come through, we're losing trees for natural reasons, trees are just aging out. But they're very important to public health, particularly because, as we keep saying, we're near the busiest airport in the world. Well, there'll come ramifications with that in terms of your air quality. So trees are part of the way that you can work around that. So what we would like to just ask you to do is, if you're interested in trees for your community, we plant not only in public spaces like parks and along streets to shade sidewalks, make it more convenient and more cooler to get to your favorite restaurant or store. But we also plant in people's front yards. So we now have 9 different municipalities throughout the metro area where they pay us to go and plant trees in people's front yards to help shade your yard, to bring beauty, and to lower your cooling bills in the summer. And the reason for that is trees grow better when they have lots of dirt to dig their roots into. So what I would suggest is talking to the mayor, talking to your council representative. We plan to plant some trees in College Park this year. We can get grants through the National Arbor Day Foundation. Many municipalities, of course, pay for trees through tree permit fees. So when you take a tree out in your yard, if that tree was healthy, you may have to pay a permit fee. I think there's a system here for that in College Park, although I don't know all the rules, but that is certainly a way to pay for the trees. But really, as Trees Atlanta is a nonprofit that we are, we try to bring resources to communities that want more green around your community. And so we are happy to do that here. For instance, We have money coming in from the Arbor Day Foundation north of $100,000 to plant in about 6 different communities this year. The money continues to come in from corporations who are trying to green their operations. So let's help them put that money to good use, and let's do it here in College Park. So please talk to your council people, talk to the mayor if you'd like to see more tree planting here. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to take those as well. Please.
Simply the service of advising on trees?
We can. So we have a relatively limited staff, so it's hard for us to advise everyone who might need assistance. But if, for instance, you have a tree in your yard that you're curious about, we can help to refer you to arborists that we respect, certified arborists that can come and give you an idea whether or not that tree is safe, whether or not you need to take it out or have it pruned or whatnot. But we just don't have the resources we need to get to every home that might need consultation.
I wanted to bring up, and this is more of a question not for you, but for our city, and probably something I should bring up at City Council. But so we had to have some trees cut down in our yard when we first moved here, and I've never really cut trees down before. It was a sad thing to do, but we had to do it. But I had come from a very tree-friendly city, Pine Lake, I'll call it out. And so I had brought in arborists, and I'd gotten a letter certifying that these trees needed to come down. And then when we went to get the permit, basically the company that cuts the trees down just goes in, gets the permit. There was absolutely nothing requested about how many trees we were taking down relative to our canopy. And I had read through the whole ordinance. We have a tree ordinance, but I've since witnessed in my community very large numbers of trees coming down on properties, and I don't feel like the ordinance is necessarily being followed, being enforced. So that's something that I just wanted to raise.
And if you have individual concerns about that, if you see that happening, I'm probably like out of the camera shot, but that's probably a code enforcement issue. And so I'm happy to give you that information, and you can call City Hall and say, you see this happening and you're not sure that it's complying with the tree ordinance. And so that's a route to address that particular issue. I know that we have a resident in the room who has done a lot of work with Trees Atlanta, who served our city in a different capacity, not just as a resident, but as our community development administrator for, was it 9 years? 9. Tasha Hall Garrison is here. And I know, I don't want to put you too much on the spot, but if you could talk a little bit about the relationship that we have had with Trees Atlanta and some of the things that we have engaged in with them. I know there were 56 trees next to the Wyatt Center that went in.
I'm gonna come to the side so people can see. Hello, neighbors. Hello, everyone. So in the past, City of College Park has engaged with Trees Atlanta, most recently to do a planting that is next door to the Tracy Wyatt Recreation Center. We did so over a weekend. It was to create really a nature park for an area that's next door to a data center. We also, as I say, a reference in the community, had done a City Hall planting survey. Thank you for the residents that participated. We were able to get feedback from residents of what type of historic trees would you like to see replanted to City Hall, as well as a tree planting guideline. Unfortunately, it was not budgeted or supported in a financial way, but the citizens did participate and provide the feedback to be used for future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want this to be a continuing conversation because we all love this community and we want to see great things happen. And a community that's got great trees is one you want to be in. So if you were thinking about how we can engage with Trees Atlanta a little bit better, a little bit more differently, please let me know, let your council member know. And Sean, you've got a thought, question?
Hi, I'm Sean Carter. I have a question in regards to what kind of trees do you plant? Do you limit the species? Because my understanding is pine trees fall at a higher frequency than most other trees. And on my street, I have quite a bit of pine trees.
Yeah, some of the mature trees we have around town are certainly pines, and they are susceptible to wind gusts and so forth. So we plant a wide variety of trees. We try to focus on native species. It is not 100% true because there are certain species that simply do well in some of the harsher environments around the urban spaces. You'll see us plant crepe myrtles from time to time for sure, but we try to focus on native oaks, tulip poplar, native maples, bald cypress. Those are the trees that we most like to plant, but then there are smaller scale trees too. So we will plant whatever we feel is appropriate for a site based on power lines, based on the space that you have. So yeah, we actually do not plant any pines whatsoever in any of our projects. So.
Yeah, Randy Godfrey. I'm sorry I missed much of this conversation, but we seem to be at a point where many of the old oak trees are right around the same age and they're coming to the end of life. I'm really concerned about the aggressive weeds like kudzu that are growing up a lot of our old trees. Is the city taking any action against all of the rampant growth of these noxious weeds through the city?
That is a great question, and I don't have the answer for you, but I'll get the answer for you if we can make sure that I can follow up on that. See, sure.
So we do have a program actually that trains individuals like yourself to actually go out and manage some of those spaces yourselves. It's called our Forest Steward Program. And so what happens is one volunteer takes the lead role and recruits other volunteers from their community to go out and actually try to take some of those invasive vines out. We can come into the community. Now, there would need funding from the city or from another source, but we have the expertise to come in and help remove those invasive plants, and we can actually apply pesticides in the proper amounts. We are fully licensed to do so. That is the only way you're actually going to get rid of a lot of those invasive plants once they start. But it is a process that takes several years. But absolutely, let's save the trees we have and not have to worry about planting more later if we can all avoid it.
So are you going to be the first forest steward? I didn't hear that. I don't think your mic was on, Randy.
Maybe.
Okay. Anyone else have any other questions for Mike? All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
Mayor, we're going to move into the recycling discussion, and we have Dakari, who is going to come join us from GFL Environmental to talk a little bit about that program and entertain discussion.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dakari Corday. I'm the general manager for GFL Environmental, Atlanta South Division, and we have been in some talks and communication with the City of College Park in regards to bringing you guys a recycle service. So what you guys have is a presentation, same one we present to the city on behalf of my firm, as far as what we want to do and what we want to provide in a recycling space. So if there's any questions from the presentation specifically, I'll overview a few high keynote points, but if you guys at any point, please feel free to stop me. The first question that I usually get in most of these settings is, where does the recycle go once it leaves my house? I can assure to you all that, so we have what they call a transfer station. I don't know if you're familiar with trash. The trash truck comes to your house, picks up your trash, it's compacted, and then taken to a transfer station. From the transfer station, it's unloaded, then it's separated based on style of waste, and then sent to, i.e. a landfill, a disposal facility, and in this situation, we have a recycle facility. So GFL operates in congruence with a operational only company that's a third party, but we pay them. So where your recycle comes, I go pick the recycle up from the mayor's house. It goes in the truck. It's in a transfer station, and our transfer station has been newly renovated. We have a specific area where that recycle is done. So it never intermingles with our regular, what we call MSW in my world. So this is governed by EPD and all the compliance organizations to ensure that when we dump on this side, the things that go to the recycling plant just go. Once it leaves the recycling plant, it can go into water bottles or paper or whatever we can use to recycle. But what we usually have is you'll find where they say the trash company just dumps it out in the landfill. And at GFL Environmental, we do not do that. We have our own operated landfill. I report directly to the regional vice president who covers the state. So, there's a high level of oversight with this project. I think that having you guys in our service parameters is absolutely amazing. We're right out of Fairburn, so we're fairly close. The distance from the center of your routes in College Park to our dump facility is about 15 minutes. You take that in a big truck, you have a little traffic, maybe 30. But overall, it's a really good opportunity, to streamline some of your extra waste, some of the stuff that you don't want to necessarily throw away that can be put back into our world. And that is kind of the adage of Green for Life. So is there any questions about life cycle? Because that's usually a hot topic, and y'all dump it out in the landfill, but I can tell you all that it's streamlined to a completely separate waste facility, and then that waste facility is also resorted for whatever the product style is, i.e. plastic, glass, cardboard, etc. So do I have any questions to that specifically? Okay. Yes, sir. So still, we don't recycle through the city. However, if mayor and council want to have a specialized stream cycle, then yes, we can. Do we do it? Yes. In this proposal specifically, steel wouldn't be in it, but I will take anything that can fit into so you got your 96 gallon, this is a 56 gallon, similar to your Herbie Kirby, but just a smaller capacity. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question about glass recycling,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
my understanding is that a lot of municipalities have stopped recycling glass unless it's at one of the larger stations, because I guess it's not cost effective any longer.
Sure, no, so the mayor was very specific. We do both with and without. So the proposal that you guys will see that'll come through services you guys with recycling glass and without glass. So it leaves you the option to recycle it or not. But we can take care of that, and then once we get it to our third party, the glass is sorted out. So that's already been established by the mayor and the team that they want to be able, you guys to have that option, so you do.
Oh, apparently your microphone's not working. Okay, let's start all over again. I heard you, but for the folks who are watching online.
Okay. Just a question about residential recycling in College Park. I just wanted to know where our recycling goes. We go to the centers, we put our things in the different allocated places. Just want to know, does that actually go to recycling, or is it just grouped and hauled off to the dump?
According to the city manager, it is recycled. I don't know specifically where it goes, but I can find out. That'll be another follow-up for me. Yes, sir.
All right, can I entertain any more questions, recycling, comments, concerns? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Garland White.
How are you, sir?
My question is this a done deal, or is this coming soon to our community? Is it just in the infantile stages, or is it going to start next week? I'm not clear on that. And the cost too. I mean, I'm just going by what we see here. Presumably, depending on the size of the bin, either $7 per household per month, or $13.95 per household per month. Is that roughly what the price would be here?
I'll let the mayor. So the price question, that is a range that we provide to just give you an idea of what the services are. You guys specifically is $10 for the city of College Park. What you see in that presentation is just kind of give you a range. Some cities are 14, some cities are 7. Depends on density, the amount that we pull out of that recycling stream. It's because it's single stream waste, so a little bit more expensive on the company side. But it's for the specific city of College Park, it's $10.
It is not a done deal. I'd asked for GFL to come and present at our workshop. Let's see, I think it was in September, and because as most of you know, I do one-on-ones every month, and anybody can call and sit down and we can chat. And so I've been talking with Luke Ewing from GFL for, almost probably about 18 months now. And I know that Councilmember Clay has worked on this issue. We've had other public works directors. Councilmember McKenzie has worked on this issue. And so we had it on the agenda a couple of times. There were some family concerns that came up for the GFL team, and so we didn't have it at the meetings in September. It was scheduled to be on Thursday's agenda. There was a little bit of, there was a desire by one of my colleagues to take it off. I think it's important to have the conversation, period, because this impacts you. And so I still wanted the GFL team to come and talk about this and get your feedback about what you want to see. Like, do you want curbside recycling? Are you willing to pay $10 a month for it? Is this something that we can rally around? Let's have that conversation, because they're here, they're listening, I'm here, I'm listening. I want to see if this is something that is palatable to the community, because it's important to you. So, Mr. Jenkins.
Had this before and it didn't quite work out. What makes us think it's going to work out this time?
Great question. Tell me why it didn't work.
They were taking the recycle and just dumping it. And so, you know, like I said, in theory, it's a great idea. The reality of it is the application didn't quite work out, and I don't know for what reasons, but I do know that that's what happened.
When you say they, I don't think it was GFL that was doing
it wasn't.
Right.
It was a city. It was the city
Right.
itself.
Okay.
And so, like I said, you know, I'm just not pointing fingers. I'm just trying to figure out what makes us think it's going to go better this time.
I think having a different company do it probably would be one of those distinguishing factors, because recycling would be what they would do, period. They wouldn't handle the trash. So I think that is a first step in making it, in having it more, the potential for it to be more successful. But I know you don't have the microphone anymore because someone else has a question behind you, but I'm curious, just as you as an individual, are you supportive of it? Would you pay $10 a month? Okay.
A footprint of the area, I think we should do, you know, as a community. But I don't want us to, in theory, do it. You know? And a lot of times we get caught up in the in theory part, but we don't do the real work. And so I'd like to see the work being done. I don't have a problem with paying the money, but I do want to make sure that we're getting what we're supposed to get.
You're getting the actual service. Yep, makes total sense. All right, we have a question in the back.
My question is this, just like the gentleman up front said, that this was a discussion with the previous council as well, and there was concern about whether the recycling service would cause residents to lose one of their trash pickup days. We currently have 2 days, which I greatly appreciate. And at that time, the debate was maybe we could swap one of our trash pickup days for the recycle days. Is that something that's still on the table, or how would this fall into the already existing schedule?
That's a topic of discussion. And so I think there are folks who are decidedly of the mind that they love their 2 trash days. I mean, we get spoiled, don't we? Like those Mondays and Thursdays are awesome. And then there are some folks who say, I can trade it off and I can have 1 trash day and 1 recycling day. So that is a topic of discussion. How do we integrate this into the whole thing and make sure that we are meeting the needs of the entire community? That's what we're here to talk about. And Ms. Blackstone, you have the mic.
If it's going to, yes. I totally support recycling. I totally support using a professional company to do it. What I'm sitting here thinking, is this going to be another sticking point where our council starts a boxing match over, yeah, we are, no, we're not, we can't do it this way. I just don't want to go into another drama and it be over recycling, quite frankly. And you can't promise, I'm just saying.
I can't promise, I don't want that either.
I know you.
I don't want that either.
Nobody here does.
I want us to have a conversation about it. That's why I asked GFL to come. That's why I asked them to get on the workshop agenda so we could have that conversation. Because this is a topic that keeps on coming up again and again. People want different options. But I understand that people disagree within households. If you ask my husband, he's fine taking it to the recycling center. I'd be like, $10? Let's get it to the curb. Like, we are a split household on that.
Yeah.
I mean, and he happily takes it to the recycling center.
It just seems like sometimes if A is in support of something, B is not. And I'm just sick of it. And
Okay,
you
so
can't wave a magic
that's a larger
wand.
issue.
I'm done.
I want to keep it focused on recycling now. And so, but let me ask for those of you who are here. And I know there's other questions, and we'll get to the other questions and comments. For those of you who are here, how many of you would be willing to have an extra $10 a month for recycling? Hold on, we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, all right. Thank you. How many of you want to keep 2 days of trash and add recycling? Okay, you have 2 hands up, Grace. And how many of you would be willing to trade off 1 day of trash and then have trash and recycling? Okay, all right. So it looked like to me that the majority of the room at least said, give me my 2 days of trash, we can add recycling, you're willing to have a $10. I mean, I understand that this is not everybody, but just for those of us who are here and talking about it. But I know there's more questions.
Question.
Wait, hold on one second.
Is the dream that this is an opt-in, or is this going to be, okay, this is what we're doing?
Yeah, so what we would propose is it's half of the city, at least. So if your population is 6,000, half of the city would do an opt-in, just so that we can create a route. Just think about the money that it costs me, for example, to send a truck out, a driver, to throw your trash away, or throw your recycling away, etc. So on a 50% commitment, you're fine, meaning that we can densify those areas. So if the city's broken in quadrants, and we have 2 quadrants, which equate to 3,000 customers, I can curate routes with a GIS team to make that quantifiable for a new truck, fuel, driver, etc., just to make sure that you guys get a top tier level of service. One thing about my branch and my leadership specifically within my branch is that we're a customer service first style of service. So to ensure that it streamlines, and the conversation that we had with Madam Mayor, it was that you guys will keep your 2 days, and then it's my job to figure out how to not inconvenience that. So we create the routes around what you guys want, the days that you would prefer that are operationally efficient for us, and then we will roll it out.
No, there's more questions. Oh.
Hear me? Okay, sorry about that. 2 questions. Can I ask one to the group like you did, Mayor? Would we be opposed to recycling if bins were supplied versus self-supplied that we are now?
So I would supply you all their blue bins, their blue recycling bins that are specific to recycle. We would supply all of those from GFL.
Perfect. Because when I moved here, that blew my mind. I had to buy my own trash bins. Like, blew my mind.
Now,
anyways,
we won't service like a personal recycling can if within the city. So I wouldn't say don't put out the can by the grill and say that's all in my recycling can, because then we wouldn't service it. We would service it to keep that stream protected. We would want to make sure they were only picking up the cans with the allotted trash style.
And I guess this is more of a comment for the mayor / question. If we were to reduce services, would some of those resources that are being used twice a week be able to take care of some of the other issues we've seen around the city, such as trash along roadways and common areas? I know, especially after the hurricane recently, I've seen lots of cleanup efforts happening. And beyond tree limbs and weeds and leaves and whatnot. There's literally trash everywhere that people have deposited that citizens are taking care of. And could we reallocate those resources instead of cutting budget, something like that?
From where I stood, it was fairly loud and clear that people wanted their 2 days back, or they wanted to keep the 2 days. So even in this room. So it was clear. Yeah. In regard to just trash concerns overall, I know that Francis Kennedy with Keep College Park Beautiful has been working diligently on that. And guess what? My appointee to Keep College Park Beautiful has had a work challenge. Well, she's changed jobs. So she's resigned from the board. So do you want to do it? Because I asked for people to apply.
I have major commitment issues, and I overcommit myself, Mayor. But if you need someone, call me.
All right. I mean, because I was going to say, if anyone's interested, I put that out in my newsletter. But if you are interested in being my appointee to Keep College Park Beautiful, please do not hesitate to reach out. They do great work and are working on beautifying every corner of our city. And Georgia Works, which is a program that moves people from generally who are they've had challenges with perhaps being unhoused or previously incarcerated. Georgia Works gets people back on track, and we've contracted with them to do periodic cleanups throughout the city as well. So if you see a particular area that's in need, let me know, let the city manager know, and Ms. Kennedy and the Georgia Works team can address it.
Standing, we currently have recycling centers in the city now, because I think my son takes recycling. So would this be more of just a convenience, and would it take away that? Or I guess, what's the purpose of bringing in something when we already have a solution?
Because, well, there have been a lot of people, I think you probably even heard it in the room, they say, well, when I moved here, I moved from a community that had curbside recycling, and I was very surprised that we do it differently here in College Park. So it's one of those conversations that keeps on coming up. So we're trying to figure out if it's something that works. I mean, like, you sound like my husband in the, like, let's just take it to the recycling center and we're good. Right. Yeah. So there's just different schools of thought, which is why I wanted to bring it up and have the conversation tonight. Anyone else? Yes, Grand Poobah.
Yeah, if you go to my website, I put a piece up there that brings up a lot of the issues that we've had over the last 16 years when I was on council. And what I said in my piece was, we recycle everything. I mean, we compost the garbage, Gene and I. We compost the garbage, we take the recycling up to the bins, and the electronics that you can't put in either place get picked up once a year, or I take it back to the Apple store. So I don't really care. I don't think it's a smart idea to lose the second garbage day. Because if you miss your garbage day, then you've got a real problem. And when I was in Phoenix for a long time. And what happened there, we had 1 day with recycling and 1 day with grass or garbage or what have you. So we had twice a week. But when people had too much garbage or too much grass, guess what went into the recycling pickup? I didn't put that on my website, but if you go to my website, it's still clayOnCouncil.com, despite the prevailing wish that it weren't. And it's there, and it talks about a lot of the issues. And I'm willing to talk to anybody that is planning this thing, because I know in the past what happened when we talked about this. There was an issue if it is private recycling. In other words, if you pay $10 a week, but you guys don't take the truck to every house, you just have a sign-up list that you go to. If you do that, you need a certain number of people to sign up, a percentage to justify the cost of driving all over the city for it. And that's a problem. And another problem you could have is that you may have some random neighbor that decides they've got too much garbage, and you never know. It might end up in your recycling can. I would hope that wouldn't happen. But I know a whole heck of a lot about recycling because I've been through it too many times.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm passionate about it. And to your point about it working, I load up my truck and I take all the recycling up there, and then I have arrived and I have seen the garbage trucks picking it up because somebody dumped a TV, somebody compromised an entire bin of recycling. So my pushback would be that it's not working because you have this major collective effort happening and then one person ruining it. So there's that like blood in the water thing, which might be a little harder to do when it's in your yard and you got to be a little more bold to come and trash your TV into my recycling, you know? But to that point, my sister lives in Germany where they are like recycling gangsters, and she gets, like in a good way, they're just OG, I don't know. But she gets fined if she has put something not applicable into her recycling. And I noticed that you guys, in your presentation, you are, you know, pinpointing and showing alerts that it's been picked up and things like that. At least that was my takeaway from your presentation. Are you guys moving to that at all, where we could have the potential to be fined if we're not recycling correctly?
Yeah, so no, we're not doing that. Now, I've been the general manager, I've been in here, so I was in New Orleans before this as a District 4 waste management. There isn't too many things in this world that I haven't seen you place in the trash can. What the process is for us, if, you know, for example, we come across your can and there's a dead dog, we notify the city. So if you're fined, it's through the code enforcement department or, you know, the police, depending on what's in your can when we get to it. Anything flammable or something like that, could that result in it? Possibly. But is that a GFL motive or entity? No, it's not. That would be something extremely drastic, and what my team does is we notify the city. I'll let city management know, let the mayor know, hey, we went to 123 Johnson Street, the driver got to the can, and there's cameras in the back of the truck, so I can see what he's dumping, and you know, we found a dead animal. At that point in time, we notify the city, we give them your address, we turn over the pictures. What the city does with you at that point is completely absolved of GFL. We have no responsibility with that, but we're just a reporter. If it's something that's illegal, we would call the police and let the College Park police know, hey, there's a body in here, you guys come and get it. And I say that, and I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to be comical, but working in New Orleans and Atlanta, I've worked in two of the biggest cities in America in trash. So again, you know, I've seen it. It's not uncommon. And so of those things, we simply report it to the powers that be, and then we continue with our route and going on about the day. No, like especially New Orleans, it's just not like, you know, homeless people they sleep in them, and then they'll go to get them picked up, and you got to think there's a split second for him to look and see a body going into that hopper. But alligators or animals or just whatever, but people have thrown away things I just rather not mention on a live stream. So, you know, but to your point, we would simply notify the authorities or the city, hey, we went to this house, this is what we've seen. We'll turn over all information that's needed, video, picture, whatever, and then we continue on.
Sorry, but if John puts steel in and Ambrose puts in electronics in or something like that, is the whole load tainted?
So from a contamination perspective, yes, but that's why we send it to a third-party sorter. So we won't not service you because the can is now on the commercial side. If you own a business and you have recycling and you have a cardboard can and you have steel in your cardboard can, then we will not render you service in that capacity commercially. But residential or curbside collection, once we get it out, because let's just be honest, someone's going to put trash in the recycle can. It's going to happen. That's why we have the firm that we got. So when it gets to the sort line, then it's all broken out. So there's we sorted, and then it's sorted again to specific waste style and stream, i.e. steel, glass, plastic, cardboard. That's why we have the firm that we have to ensure that happens, and that minimizes, I think, the concerns of the gentleman who left of what is it really doing once it leaves. So I can commit to you all that it is truly being recycled. It doesn't go to our landfill, which is also a GFL entity. So there's also a bunch of governing bodies and compliance aspects to go with that. I don't want you guys to think that it's just easy to just throw away something as recycling from a company perspective and it's trash. That is not okay. And you almost can't do it. So, there's a governing body federally that we adhere to, state and local. So it's not just, oh, I'm gonna tell the mayor I'm picking up the recycling and it's going down the street to my backyard. Like that's not, we have to manifest it out. Those tons are all measured. They're forecast from a financial perspective. And there's a lot of hands outside of Dakari that wants to know where that waste is going, how much of it went, and then the life cycle of it thereafter.
Are there any other questions? We have one more. Whoop, one more in the back here. No problem.
Hi. So I did a quick Google search of the company, and I saw that it didn't have consistently good reviews. Matter of fact, it had 1-star reviews. There were a lot of things on the Better Business Bureau. And so I'm just kind of wondering, I always believe in giving chances, but is there a caveat in the contract? Are there other companies that were considered? I guess maybe this is a question for the mayor also. So
I can speak to the service thing and just give you a little bit of explanation. I was brought into the GFL branch due to my predecessor not being able to run a successful branch. I'll tell you that since I've taken over the Fairburn operation, we have probably minimized our customer service complaints to about 75 to 80%. We have a go-back policy for things, because a lot of it is mistrash and communication. One thing I want you to understand is the operations piece, what I do, does not coincide with the customer service piece. So we have a customer service division, we have a operations division, and then we have a corporate call center. What we've done in Fairburn has been remarkable, to say the least. Coming out of COVID, the struggle was staffing and having the trucks and availability to be able to get the trash off the ground. I dealt with that in New Orleans in the metro when I was in waste management. I seen the remnants of it once I got to Georgia. The difference is now that we have established a kind of a winning culture within our branch. I have went out and found the best recruiter, or recruited the best guys that I know to drive the trucks, the safest group of people, the safety metrics, and our things of that nature to kind of speak for it. I'm a very available general manager. You can email me directly in the event of there's ever a customer service issue. Jason Rice is my operations manager, and I have 4 other people under us to ensure that you guys are getting what we need. But I'll give you perspective. I have an 85,000 person customer base just out of Atlanta South. We also have Douglasville, Stockbridge, and all those are grouped into those reviews. So, the neighbors could be upset in Stockbridge, but it comes up as we're all GFL environmental. But our customer service stance, our want to satisfy you and give you great customer service is at the forefront of what Branch 9 does, the Fairburn branch of Atlanta South, and that is my full commitment to you guys. I can't speak for what happened years before. In the last 2 years, I can tell you that has been ideally one of the best branches in the South Georgia region.
yeah, good answer. I still am curious about the contract. If we're not satisfied and
one thing to the contract
is
there's the breach clause. So in the event that we don't perform, just with any contract municipal, we have a breach clause. The mayor will send us a letter to notice of breach of contract. There's a remedy period that is then rendered. We have X amount of days to fix said issues with quantifiable follow-up that the mayor can see. So, if it's the car, you haven't been down Johnson Street in 3 weeks, I have to send the mayor video footage of me on Johnson Street. What do we do on Johnson Street? How did Johnson Street look before you got there? How did Johnson Street look after you left? Those things are in there from the protection of the constituent perspective, but it's just a breach clause. So if we don't perform, the firm doesn't perform, there are legal implications that we can face with the city that I won't discuss on this platform, but there is that process that is in place to protect you guys from us not doing what we say we need to do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, well, that is the conclusion of our special guests. I want to provide everyone with some updates about what's going on in the city. And I know that I did extend an invitation to City Manager Dr. Adediran. He was not able to make it tonight, but I did ask, because we had some questions ahead of time, that I wanted to make sure that we got to and had some answers. And so for those of you, oh, sure.
There we go. I just wanted to reiterate the rules of engagement as we enter into this portion of question and answer. Please be respectful. One question per person. Avoid interrupting, and we can have an engaging and productive 25 or so more minutes.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay. So let everyone know that in regard to open records request, if I can say it, open records requests. As of 4 p.m. this afternoon, in 2024, the city has received 2,641 open records requests. 40 of those were canceled. 2,412 of them have been completed. 189 are currently being worked on. For the last 12 months, there's been an average number of open records requests of about 250 per month. We were above that in July and August. 139 are past due, and our interim city clerk is hoping to make progress on that number this evening. She said when she arrived, I think it was about 8 weeks ago, is that right? When she arrived, the city had 228 open records past due. Their average turnaround time has dropped from 8 days to 3 days for most responses. And to directly quote her, "We've done a lot of training of staff over the last 45 days and are doing more tomorrow. Several of the outstanding requests are quite large. One request has 25,350 emails to be reviewed and redacted. This was after the requester reduced his search." So from May to October of 2024, in October we've gotten 79 requests, 69 are open. They received a dozen today. Remember, they've only been in October for 5 business days. In September, 241 requests were received, and 36 are still open. They were closed 2 days because of the storm in September. In August, 353 requests were received, 20 are still open. In July, 316 requests were received, 16 are still open. In June, 256 requests were received, 22 are still open. In May, 294 requests were received, and 14 of those are open. And for those of you who may not recall or do not know, our last permanent city clerk departed the city in mid-April, and so our interim city clerk came on August 5th. So there was a fairly large gap between those two. And so a lot of those requests did back up. But she gave me some more statistics of canceled requests versus completed requests. I'm happy to go through those if you want. And there's some head shaking. No, you don't want all those stats. But I did want to let you know exactly what's going on with open records requests, because it's a question that I get fairly frequently. So another question that I got was about dumpsters. Dumpsters at the Family Dollar on Virginia, and dumpsters in regard to some of the businesses on Main Street. And so our code enforcement team told me that they've issued proper notice to owners of both locations, and they're currently working with the sanitation department. Sanitation's got some issues with the locations of those dumpsters, and if the enclosures that are supposed to be there are not installed properly, sanitation's going to have an issue servicing those businesses, and so they are working with the business owners to try to get the proper enclosures, but also make sure that sanitation can service them. So, all right. We already talked about BioLab. There was a question that on September 30th, the city announced they were partnering with AFCEMA, which is the Atlanta Fulton County Emergency Management Authority, and the Georgia Emergency Management Authority to install air monitoring devices. The question was, where can residents find data collected from these devices? I don't know where you can find the actual data. But what you can do is go to the Fulton County website and look for AFCEMA. the Atlanta Fulton County Emergency Management Authority. That's where we get a lot of our information about emergency management. In fact, today, that was the first way that I found out that Hurricane Milton had been upgraded to a Category 5. AFCEMA does an amazing job of keeping us informed about weather challenges and other natural disasters. So if you go to Fulton County website, you can absolutely get the information. I printed out the AFCEMA update about BioLab and the testing that they are doing on the air quality on a daily basis. Right now, there are no alerts for Fulton County in regard to the BioLab fire, but if that changes, AFCEMA will let us know because they are on it. That is where we get our emergency information and we distribute it to you. So I want to do a little bit of a back and forth where I'm not just rifling off some of the questions that we've received. So if there are questions in the room, happy to answer those as well. Or if they're not, I'll just keep on. Okay, all right.
This has to do with the, we no longer get code red. Have we opted out of that system or have we moved to another system?
I think Cameron will probably be able to give us all the details on that.
We have begun to phase out Code Red, and all of our information does come from AFCEMA, and we use Falcon along with Fulton County. And so if you see anything posted from us, that's who we're using. Our fire chief, Sterling Jones, is the one who disseminates that information, and we give it to you.
And signing up for Falcon, you can, the communications team is sort of, at least, I see it pretty frequently, putting up the information about how to sign up for Falcon alerts, but those are through Fulton County, and it is distributing the same amount of information, but make sure that you do sign that up. I will say that I had another question in regard to that from another resident about that. I think we need to probably do a better job of sharing that Code Red is phasing out, and we're working with Falcon because that's how we're getting that important information. Yes, ma'am.
One question about Falcon. Did you say that is being managed by Fulton County, or is that managed by the city?
Hold on.
If there's a Falcon alert for College Park, it is coming from College Park. If our chief decides that it's covering the whole area with Fulton County, we will just redistribute their alert, such as a state of emergency from the governor for the state. But anything that you may have seen during the hurricane crisis last week, that came from our emergency management meetings that we had each morning and around the clock, and our fire chief, along with our city manager, decided what our messaging would be, and that's what we put out on Falcon, coming from the city of College Park. So it'll generally be coming from us.
And so will residents have to worry about council persons misusing the Falcon system to announce festivals, or is it strictly for emergency announcements?
This is strictly for emergency announcements.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let me go to another one of the earlier questions that were submitted. A couple of years ago, I was told that College Park would be getting a dog park. Can you give me a status update on that situation? So that was one of the items that Councilmember Gay wanted to do at the corner of, I believe it is Herschel, and it's still, we extended the name of Main Street, but Herschel Roosevelt Highway. And I believe Fulton County has deeded over a small piece of land that he has designated that he wants community enhancement funds to go toward for a dog park. And so that would be on the southern end of the city. Question in the room?
I'm almost.
Hold on. Oh, is it?
I'll just shout.
No,
I'll turn it back on.
Is it on? Okay, I'm really truly embarrassed to ask this, but I don't know what the public records request is. You refer.
Oh, an open records request?
Open records request, yes.
Well, as a public entity, you are entitled essentially to almost everything that we have.
I've got you.
So if you want the emails that we've sent, if you want information about, gosh, anything, because what we do is on your behalf. So you can request records from the city for just about anything. If you want to see how I've spent the discretionary money that I get every fiscal year, you can do that.
You better watch out. Now that I know.
You know what? I'll tell you, most of it goes to James Hammond, so we can so we can stream these meetings and make sure that everyone gets the information. And I'll tell you, the rest of it generally goes to like making sure that we do like a lunch for Public Works and stuff like that. But I mean, on my end. But we're spending your money, so you can ask us how we're doing that. And that's one of the reasons that people have submitted open records requests. Some of them, we get a lot for the police reports and the like. What else am I forgetting, Cameron, in terms of what people request in public records?
Lots of police reports, what's happened at meetings, how we're spending money, what the GICC is doing, our endeavors, anything that we're building. Kind of anything, and some of the larger requests are those email requests. Don't request emails.
You can request emails. You can request whatever you want. But yeah, so whatever we're doing, it's subject to public records.
Hi, my name is Mose.
Hello.
There's several investigations going on to my count. There was an investigation about the rock wall that I don't think is complete. There's an investigation about what's affectionately known as Dumpster Gate, where hundreds of documents are found in a recycling bin. I guess that won't happen if GFL is here. And then there's an investigation about people who were possibly disruptive at a meeting that they were thrown out. Do you have any updates on any of those three investigations that's going on?
I think you and I were on the same email chain in terms of the rock wall, and I actually meant to follow up this afternoon and ask what the status of the investigation was from, I believe it is the police chief from Lithonia who was doing an investigation of the rock wall. I just ran out of time before I didn't send the email. So I will do that. Yeah, I will make sure that happens so we can follow up and get more information about that. It's my understanding in regard to the documents that were discovered in the dumpster that there's a private investigator who's handling that. I don't know the status of it. I don't think it's been completed. And lastly, in regard to the August 9th meeting.
Hello? Yes. Those individuals who might additionally be charged for being disruptive. I just remember Chief Connie Rogers said that there will possibly be others who would be charged, and they were investigating that.
I don't have any information on that right now, but I will follow up. All right, let me go to the list. Let's see here. What is the status of the lithium battery plant to be built in College Park? After last weekend's fire in Conyers, as a senior citizen, I am especially concerned about the plant coming to my community. As a member of Ward 4, I'm not getting information concerning my ward or the city. I was receiving a newsletter from the mayor that helped me to stay informed. I don't get that on a consistent basis. I am sorry. You're right. I need to be better about the newsletter. That is on me. Is there a city code and or assistance to get homeowners to trim or remove dead trees from their property? There is a city code that requires, I mean, our tree ordinance is fairly extensive. In regard to assistance from the city, there is not explicit assistance in regard to trimming or removing dead trees. It's probably something that we should examine because it is one of those things that is, you know how you do certain projects and you're like, how is it this expensive? trimming trees and taking down trees is one of those things. And we do not have we also have to be very careful about how we use public money. We can't improve private property owners' land with public money. So that would have to be something that would come from a different source. And so that would be something that we'd have to look at as a community and not just our government. So in regard to the lithium battery storage facility, I think most of you are well aware that I expressed my concerns back in March and moving forward about the process of how this particular rezoning took place. I think you're also aware, because I've said it publicly a number of times and I will continue to say it publicly, I do not believe we followed the zoning procedures law when we did that. And so that was my concern, and that is why I took my concerns to the State Attorney General's office. I have not heard anything in regard to that. So to my understanding, I don't think that that the company has moved forward on anything yet, so we are sort of in a holding pattern. Questions in the room? Yes, sir.
I want to talk about code enforcement.
Okay.
I want to talk about kudzu that everybody's ignoring. I want to talk about the fact that my wife and I took out a very expensive permit to take down some trees. And we were very diligent in following all the rules, and nobody came to check on it. I got a permit to work on my house on the exterior and building a deck. Nobody ever came to check out on it. I got a house down the street, it had a vagrant living in it, and I told city councilman about that. Nobody did anything about it. She burnt the house down. I got a house down the street, one more house down. Today, with a stop work order posted, they're working on it. The developer is taking this town for a ride, and they're making fools out of all of us. I want to know, what do I do next? What do we do when we have a code enforcement department, apparently from top to bottom, that doesn't know what their job is and doesn't want to do it anyway? I don't know. I don't know what to do. I mean, we pay a lot of money to pay these people to look out for our best interests, and I got a nice house. It's surrounded by junk, and nobody's doing anything about it.
So first of all, please do not hesitate to reach out to me if you're not getting a response from...
I CC'd you on an email when I sent it to the entire city council, the city manager, and the woman who's in charge of code enforcement, among others. And they glad-handed me and said, oh, we're on this. We're going to go take care of that dumpster. That dumpster was looked at 2 hours later. They were looking at that dumpster behind the subway, okay? They're still there. They're still there. I mean, is the city the only trash company in town? Yeah. Do businesses all use the city?
Yes.
Okay. They're still there. But, I mean, I got a little action. I got a little action out of a huge problem. And I need to know that the city's doing its job, that it even knows what its job is. Because I'm not convinced that the people that I'm complaining to are doing anything other than, oh yeah, we'll get right on that.
So, I mean, I think you were on the email this afternoon, right? When I was following up?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a fumble.
That was a fumble? On...
No, not you.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, well, I'm just saying that I typically, because I think all of you, if you're not aware, let me let you know, I don't run the day-to-day operations of the city. That is the job of the city manager. And so I think one of the best things that I can do is be in a space to advocate, to follow up. I'm usually not the first person who's going to answer your email because, I don't always know the answer.
I wasn't emailing you.
Yeah, I know you were copying me. Yeah. And so when I saw that there was a response, I was like, okay, they're following up on it. And that's why, because I had the second question about the Family Dollar, I wanted to follow up on your issue with the dumpsters near the subway and get an answer to that before I came tonight. But if you feel like you're not getting an appropriate response, because I had another resident who was asking about Code Red and Falcon today and said, I still didn't get a response from last week that fleshed it out. I hate that sometimes you have to circle back. Everyone's trying to do the best they can, and sometimes we're all juggling a lot of different things, but I'm here to work for you, period. Like, you're my boss. All of you are my boss. So if there is something that we're not doing, if there's something we've dropped the ball on, one, I'm going to apologize because you expect a certain level of service and you should get it. But then we should try to make it right.
I guess I'll just circle around and write another email and tell everybody, no, this is not, it's not happening. And by the way, they're still working on that place down the bottom of the hill.
Okay, that one, was I on that one? I don't know that I was on that email. I saw that you put it on Facebook.
Well, I'll send you a copy of it.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, let me take one from the list here. Are there any plans to install traffic cameras to identify those speeding and driving recklessly in College Park? Main Street and East Main Street are especially problematic. Do you know who's in the room tonight? Well, yes, the question, the asker of the question, but the people who can answer the question directly. Major Denard.
All right. Listen, we've been working, Chief Connie Rogers, we had a traffic study done, Main Street. We're actually going to get something done on East Main as well. We met with Fulton County Board of Education probably 2 weeks ago. We've been in constant communication, so traffic study's been done. All we gotta do now is get it dinged in the school zone, and you'll possibly see speed detection devices go up in those areas to slow that traffic down, because it is very fast.
And so, for everyone's knowledge, you can only put up those speed cameras?
You can only put up speed cameras in school zones. You just can't put up speed zones like in the middle of Old National Highway if there's no school zone. Laws have been passed against that now, so wherever there's a school zone, things of that nature, you can't put those cameras up.
All right. I'm sorry? Yep, LPRs. What about? Oh, yes, and there's more LPRs,
yes,
right?
Yes.
License plate reader cameras.
Yes.
So those have been very, very effective in, I don't want to steal your thunder, because, but they've been quite effective in apprehending folks. And there is a question from Mr. Godfrey. Or no, Ms. Riley.
So it's my understanding that the city is providing counsel for, providing legal services for Jamel for the recall. And then she in turn put a lawsuit against Queenie for doing her job, basically. And the city is providing counsel for Queenie, but she's getting Winston and not getting outside counsel. And I feel like that's a huge conflict of interest, especially watching him in the council meetings. So why is Queenie not getting any type of outside counsel, if that is the correct statement,
This is above my pay grade. These are decisions that are being made on the city manager level.
Who makes those decisions, and why did they make those
decisions? That would be a question for the city manager.
Oh, well, that explains it. Okay. I have another question. Do you want that one too, or do you want to wait and let? Yeah, I'll let you talk first.
Hey, I wanted to go back to something that John was talking about. So at the bottom of the hill at Lyle and...
Are we talking about Lyle, the house?
Lyle and Pierce, there's a house that is being built in what I understand used to be a quarry. It's in a hole. It serves as a place where water from two major streets converge to go to Camp Creek. Before the storm, the gentleman was working to build a retaining wall and all kinds of things to protect the house. It was a bad decision to put it there, but the storm really proved that it was a bad place. There's video that many people took of water running through the house. There's mud all over the place. And they're attempting to prepare that house for sale. I'm worried about the future resident, right? I'm not sure what the role of the city is in this, right? Once they clean it up, right? What's that? How do they? Well, once they clean it up, the cities, what are they judging? So I'm curious about what the official process is for the city to make sure that soon-to-be purchaser of new home understands what they're buying into, because it's a hot mess.
So the role of an individual purchaser making a decision to purchase a particular piece of land is not something that the city gets involved in. I know that, Mr. Weeks, when you posted it, I did comment about the fact that the last time that someone had brought it up to me, I brought it to our former chief building official, and I know they issued some stop work orders. And then at some point, I got taken off of those emails because the builder said, "We've done what you've asked. Can we continue to proceed?" And I never was on the response to that. And so I'm not exactly sure what happened. I think I said that. I'm not sure I said it that clearly on, when I was writing it out. But it was over the summer when someone had brought it up to my attention again. And I guess you followed up with someone recently after the storm about it as well? Okay, so I don't think I was on that one, but.
I think you got pulled off so that all the reply alls didn't include you.
Oh, okay.
What happened was that everybody, when the storm happened, their pathetic attempt at drainage got immediately washed down to
I saw the video.
Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And the retaining wall started to heave and buckle. And I wrote a letter saying, I need y'all to do something about this, because this isn't just affecting a future homeowner. This is affecting the man who's building a house up the top of the hill up above. Mm-hmm. And they put a stop work order on it. And I read it because it's 3 doors down. And it says, must do this, that, and the other. And it said, provide an engineered solution to drainage issues. That work order is still sitting on the permit. And today, they were pressing forward on this cheesy wall. It's the textbook definition of what the problem was to start with.
Okay, so I'll follow up in the morning. I'll copy you, and we'll at least get the ball rolling on our side. Okay.
Hi. I know I see people are leaving the room, and so I just wanted to use the opportunity to let people know that while we just had a wonderful ribbon cutting for a brand new small high school that is specialized on Main Street, it's so exciting to see the kids walking down today. I saw them. We also have elementary schools that are going to be closing or are up for debate for closing. One is Park Lane. My child went to pre-K there and loved it. College Park is in a very interesting situation where our elementary school, our public county elementary school, has close to 70% unhoused students. And because of this, it has deterred, and even some of the leadership has frankly said to me and to others in our neighborhood that our kids would probably be better served elsewhere, which makes it difficult if we want to search and find a public school option in this community. Park Lane Elementary is one of those small schools that was serving the need. It also had been open enrollment. So if you were zoned for College Park, you could enroll at Park Lane, and they are threatening to close it. So I have a little flyer here with all the big meetings that are coming up, and I'm just going to pass it around. October 17th is really the one that people need to come out for. And also, a lot of these public schools have working overextended households that don't really have the babysitting money. And so we as a community, if we can come out and be there for them, it would be really important. So it's savepes.com too, that you can go to as well. Save PES. Thank you.
On that note, I think I told everybody we were going to finish at 9 anyway. I know there's other questions, but I don't want to keep everybody here all night. So my pledge to you is that I will answer the questions that came in, and I will do that on mayorbianca.com. For those of you who want to sign up for the newsletter, there should be at least one sheet in each row that you can scan the QR code and sign up for my newsletter. And we will work. It's been a very busy year, and I apologize because we had a plan to get it out a little bit more regularly than it has come out, but we will redouble those efforts. And again, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. Hopefully it was informative. Hope you learned something that you didn't know when you walked in. And know that I'm here and this entire staff is here in service to you, the residents and the other stakeholders of the city of College Park. I love y'all. I love this. I mean, and I feel so fortunate to be able to continue to serve you. And hopefully we'll see the rest of you on Thursday at our rescheduled council meeting. So have a good evening, everybody. Take care.